What's up, guys? Running back with another replay for you, and it's Game 3 of this Grand Final series that I've been putting up the last few days. It's Nerexa and Czarix still, and they're just going to get into it. I'm just going to go ahead and run it. We've got Wood Elves here, pretty wide Wood Elves build versus Lizardmen, which has some really interesting tools. You got two Solar Engines here, Skink Priest with Flock of Doom, always a really good choice. Legion of Chaqua here, they've got that ability. 40% missile resistance, which is pretty nice. Bastillodon's shooting trees, what's new? Oxalotl, he's a very interesting choice. I do not see him very often, but gonna be poking and getting after the various treekin. Shooting at some dryads right now, but probably pretty good against Drycha. Certainly very good against treemen and some of the bigger targets. And to fill out the rest of the Lizardman army, it's going to be 4 Chameleon Skinks. Always a very good choice. They have that crazy missile resistance, keeps them really durable, and a really nice Flock of Doom, hitting a huge portion of the Wood Elf army. Glade Guard, the Dryads, and the Eternal Guard here, all getting smacked up by that. Wood Elves have got Drycha, some Dryads, the several Glade Guards, a couple of different variants, regulars, there's some Hagbane Tips, and I believe there's a Starfire Shaft in here somewhere. Yeah, these guys here. So, very interesting stuff. Wraiths of the Frozen Heart, they're just a little bit tougher. They've got that Frostbite, and can certainly lock some stuff in place if need be. And Branch Wraith as well. It has Earthblood, but Melkoth's is the big calling card there. And off on the side, there is a Glade Captain who is jumping in between forest positions and getting after Oxalotl here, but taking massive fire from the Umbral Tide, which is the first summon out for the Lizardmen, doing a ridiculous amount of damage in just no time flat. I mean, look at how powerful these lizards are, man. Absolutely roasting this guy. His charge gets stopped, and he does break there. Very unfortunate for Nerexa in the early going here, losing a pretty expensive hero unit. With this kit, I believe this guy's like 1100 maybe? They're very powerful combatants on this big reindeer here. But there is some good news for the Wood Elves. Some Glade Riders come out and absolutely flatten this unit of Chameleon Skinks, doing massive damage. I believe a Melkoth's was cast onto them as well. They are almost broken, but the Glade Riders do break first. Although I would say, you know, in terms of a trade, not the worst one imaginable, quite honestly. Getting good damage on these Chameleons is going to be very important. And they're taking a lot of damage from the Melkoth's and cavalry charges so far. Another really good Melkoth's. It does hit the Legion of Chaqua here. They're very trapped up on all these Dryads here. They're fighting some Firebark Elders as well. Never see these guys also. Nerexa bringing some very fun tools and making the most out of them. The Lizardmen as well. This is a pretty off-meta choice of units for both of these armies, in my opinion. I've certainly never seen a Lizardman build quite like this being brought against Wood Elves, nor have I seen this Wood Elf build being brought against this kind of a Lizardman build. Both players doing a really good job so far of trading with one another. Czarix does have the lead over Nerexa right now, getting some good shots on these Glade Guard right now with the big old Solar Engine, who's kind of like the Skull Cannon on the Khorne roster. Mobile artillery pieces like this actually are able to shoot when they're on top of infantry units in melee, but the Glade Captain has come back, rallying in the mid-game here, doing a lot of damage to this Bastillodon, and Czarix needs to get this big boy out of there. He does not want to be firing while he's getting stabbed in the butt. You know, even though he's got that immune to flanking and does get the benefit of melee defense, it's only 28, and this guy's a anti-large melee combatant, so gonna absolutely do some work against that guy. Legion of Chaqua just so low, fighting too many targets on all fronts. Some Saurus Warriors have moved in to help, but they're gonna be less than fantastic against those Firebark Elders there. Out here on the flanks, man, some more Melkoths have gone down. Another unit of Glade Riders has been sacrificed to the spirit of the forest, so we'll say. And the 2 chameleon skinks are on death's bed. One is very healthy, though, used a lot of its ammo, but not really gotten its value. And they're going to have a hard time against Sisters of the Thorn. Very annoying and powerful skirmish unit. And just throwing some spears out there, throwing their javelins. They're a javelin cavalry. They have some pretty incredible missile weapon strength stats. Really nice Melkoths out here. Does nail these Umbral Tide lizards here. Doing a lot of damage, but they're pretty healthy still. And despite the Glade Riders coming in here, they do have perfect vigor, so they are nice and quick. They're not going to outrun these guys, but I don't know where these Cold One Spear Riders are going. They really need to get on top of the Glade Riders and save these poor hunting packs here. Doing a good job of finally getting that order in. The Glade Riders do push past the Spear Riders, though, unfortunately. So, missing out on that charge is pretty bad. There's an Shield of the Thorns going down on top of them as well. The bound ability from the Sisters of Thorn, getting some value out of that. That's good for sure. Doing a little bit of poke back against the Spear Riders here. And these Glade Riders are just going all the way in, man. They're going full dive, trying to get the Umbral Tide, but a Feral Cold One does come out, intercepts most of the unit, and they're going to finally be able to clear those guys up, routing them in time to save the Umbral Tide, who might have to put the game on their back here. The Bastiladons, the Glade Captain has been dealt with. He was killed by Oxalotl, I believe, or at least shot off the field by him. And the Bastiladons are pretty low here. This one getting beat up by Drycha pretty bad, although Drycha doing some good damage in return. Some Glade Guards firing in here, doing some nice work. Starfire Shafts and regular variants, all focus firing this one that is particularly low in its combat with Drycha right now. And gonna be able to kill this guy. It's gonna be very painful. And a great Stag Knight comes out, taking the charge head-on against the Bastiladon, hammering this big boy on the charge and taking it out finally. Although they have taken a good bit of poke in return, the Skink Priest trying to do his best here, just getting knocked over by these giant reindeer. Really not loving life. Decides to get some revenge and casts a Flock of Doom on top of him. Some Skink cohorts firing their javelins in here as best they can. But it's looking pretty grim in the center for the forces of the Lizardmen. Some tattered Skink cohorts are rallying in the back here. They're getting some javelin tosses in on these Glade Guard. Another cohort gonna try and push the number 3, but there's a lot here. And 2 Skink cohorts are not gonna beat Dryads and Eternal Guard. No matter how well you play that, these are just very high leadership units with much better combat stats, so maybe a bit of a waste of time going in here. And Czarix is losing the ticket lead here, heading into the mid-game. And, yeah, we're going to see if he can pull it off. He's in a decent enough position out here on the flank, but losing the Umbral Tide here. The Branch Wraith on top of these fellas, casting Melkoths, I'm sure, getting some extra damage on them, and they are routing. They only have 400 health left. I don't think there's going to be any way to rally them, and some Glade Riders. That really tattered Glade Rider that got beat up chasing after these guys earlier has an opportunity to maybe chase them down and make sure that they get off the field. But it does look like Nerexa is looking for bigger fish to fry in this scenario. Moving on, and it's bad. It's bad out here on the flank as well now. Without the Bastiladon solar engines to trade in the late game, I don't know what Czarix is going to do to get rid of all of the, albeit very tattered Wood Elf infantry. They are still going to provide okay cap weight, and there are enough models here to put up a decent little fight into the 4th quarter. And this was one of the answers, and without them, Oxalotl, I don't think is going to be able to do it by himself. He's gotten good value, for sure. 1,400 is pretty nice on him. He's a very cheap lord. Poking a little bit against the Glade Riders here, and losing the caster there, potentially. Saurus Spears coming out against War Dancers. Trying to push past, but that's a bit of a mistake. A bit of a trap. Better to just trade and kill these guys off in their tattered condition than to try and run past them the way they are, because they're just going to take a bunch of damage on the way through instead. Last charge of the Stag Knights. They've not paid for themselves, but they've done pretty decent work in the time that they've had. They've been getting poked out by quite a few units, and allowing other units to trade effectively into those that have been doing damage to them. So, even in my opinion, for Nerexa there, crushing the Spear 1 Cold Riders, and I am afraid this could be the last gasp of the Lizardmen. They're losing the number 1. They do have some Chameleon Skinks coming out. They should be able to handle these units out here. As long as they can poke the Spear Riders and Sisters of the Thorn before they can get a good charge off, then they might be able to recap this number 1. And the values are even enough, and both sides here are pretty desperate for some movement in terms of the cap situation. So it might be possible for the Lizardmen to move this back in the 4th quarter. If they can just secure one of these objectives and kill these infantry here, I think it might be doable. Some more Chameleon Skinks coming out. These guys back here, they have dealt with the Glade Riders. They are trying to kill the Dryads now. Some Feral Cold Ones blocking those Dryads up, allowing the Skirmishers to move around the side here, maybe get back on this number 1 and hold it. It's barely in control of the Lizardmen. They do manage to hold on to this. Very good play from Czarix on that front. Losing these Lizard Spears, though, man, they got a little bit of value, but not too terribly good for such an expensive unit. And these Sora Spears got absolutely rolled on a rear charge here. Very unfortunate stuff. Wild Hunters of Kurnus did come out, and they just absolutely flattened this unit on the charge. And I do believe these guys, being as healthy as they are, probably going to carry the rest of this game on their back. And there really aren't any answers to them on the field. They are going to jump on top of Oxalotl out here as well. Poor little guy. He's been doing his best. I believe he's up to about 1,700. Yeah, 1,700 value on him is pretty good. Pretty good. He would have gotten a lot more if there had been some bigger targets, but not going to see that too terribly often for the Forces of the Wood Elves. Drycha is just so cost-effective. And that's going to be it. Czarix does give it up in the final moments there, but really well played to him. This is a pretty tricky matchup for Lizardmen, and he brought a very unorthodox build and almost made it work. Very good going in the early game there. A few stumbles with the solar engines getting poked out in the mid-game is probably what sealed the deal in favor of the Wood Elves. Otherwise, the trades were going pretty well, honestly. Not having an answer for those Treekin was a bit unfortunate, and committing Spears into a losing fight against them was not ideal. But live and learn. I think this build could work just with a little bit more micro-optimization, but I do believe that, honestly, trying to fight Wood Elves is hard enough, and fighting a build like this that's nice and wide and has a lot of answers against what you've got is very difficult, and it's much easier said than done to micro around it better and take better engagements, because the battlefields in this game are so chaotic. So getting to the grand finals at this point, and Czarix has won a handful of tournaments. Very, very good tournament player. Can definitely hang his head high on this one, despite the loss here in Game 3. Nerexa, another tournament win under his belt. Going to be moving on, and certainly going to be appearing in the end-of-season top 16 tournament, for sure, just on the number of tournament wins he's got this early in the season. So I'm going to call this one here, guys. I hope y'all enjoy these matches, and I hope y'all take care, too. Peace.